Ambassador, there brings another perspective. It is more in broader terms. I myself, was in Copenhagen. I understand how Denmark and Danish people are sensitive towards environment. They feel about and they do about. And that's how it makes a model country. Now, this COVID brings a perspective to a lot of developing nations like India, and in between the debate between development and nature. And so Denmark again comes to the perspective, because the Danish way is not a counter argument, it's about going together. Before, I also understand Foreign Minister came to India, and he had a length of discussion with our Indian counterpart, and we proposed India and Denmark going together as a green superpower concept. This concept is more relevant now. Are we on to it? And how
more than ever, more than ever.
And what Denmark can do now for this?
But let me start from a different angle. When you look into India, I have seen something that I never thought I would ever see in India. First and foremost, the potentials that you have in India when it comes to talents, technology, and so forth, and the digital skills you have, that was brought into the fight against the COVID. You had all your ambassadors across the world. They were really collecting best practices and so forth, and that was in real time translated, transformed into Indian context. So in that way, you develop a response that really unified India big time. And another thing which I think is so important and is also boding really well for the future is the strong collaboration between the center and the states. I know, and there are plenty of examples, how regulatory issues, hindrances, obstacles were all done away within 1 day or 2 days.
Right.
Early on, it could take forever, if ever really materializing. So India got together, got more unified, and that bodes well for the future. Coming back to your very pertinent question, we believe Denmark had a kind of external shock back in the 1970s. We were very dependent on oil.
Yes.
And suddenly all the oil supplies were stopped. I was a child at that time, and then we could not use our cars. All the lifts and escalators were stopped and so forth, because the whole society was dependent on one energy source, oil.
Right.
Then visionary government, researchers and the private sector got together in order to develop a new idea. They got unified, like India is unifying now. And they reinvented, so to say.
It was a crisis time.
Yeah. Out of crisis will grow opportunities. So either you are flattening out yourself and get more or less giving up, or you say, okay, we have to bring relief, we have to secure a recovery, but we can also start looking into the opportunities. So in Denmark, we developed these wind turbines, and today is a double-digit, multi-billion industry. And one of our ideas that we have been discussing for some time with the Indian counterparts is the development of a green strategic partnership. And it's so important. Green partnership does not mean that we are just claiming that now we have to change everything that will have an impact on climate. In the Danish context, when we really were in a fundamental crisis, the whole society got to a standstill. We in a very visionary way developed the wind industry. And today is double-digit US dollar billion industry. And green transformation that we believe in is not only about changing our behaviors and do something good for the climate and so forth. It's also a way of bringing new growth, new jobs, more permanent jobs into a society. So that's why we say, okay, let's have a green strategic partnership, because this will also be part of the recovery for India. It will create a lot of jobs.
Right.
If India really is moving into making India even more focusedly than before, doing away with all the red tape, bureaucracy, and create kind of red carpet for foreign direct investments, doing away with all these licenses and whatever and whatnot, and open the doors, then you can create a huge number of jobs in India. India is huge, 1.4 billion inhabitants,
Well,
and a big economy. But when you divide the size of your economy with the number of people living here, then of course it gives a very, very low amount per capita. But you have the scale, you have the skills. So if you want to, you can move from make in India to make India. And our view is that using the mechanism make in India to make India green and sustainable is the way forward. India is very, very keen on the implementing of the UN development goals, the SDGs. And we all know that you cannot do anything in the world to solve these issues, even climate, without India being part of the equation. So why not join hands and create recovery through new jobs, new industries, and then bring about the realization and implementation of the SDGs by 2030.
So, Ambassador, you spoke about the sustainable goals, of course, and I understand the Prime Minister Modi also talked about scaling the skills, which we can combine with Denmark, and together we can do wonder. But what Denmark can do, and also from the perspective that the Danish investment in India is not as it should be, perhaps. So, what exactly Denmark can do to strengthen our renewable energy system? Some of the skills we talked about, the concrete measures that you talked about down the line.
Yeah, but I think we can do a lot. Now we have our joint commission, and we have a lot of working groups. One of them dealing with renewables. We are assisting India in a number of fields, building up their center of excellence in Chennai about wind. We are helping developing the regulatory framework and so forth. So I think we can do a lot. It's about hands-on, kind of this very practical approach. So that's something we can do. And if the governments, the Prime Minister to Prime Minister, agree about the vision, the tools, then it's just to bring in the investors, it's bring in the companies, researchers, and so forth. It's like weaving a carpet. The finer the threads are, the better.
Right.
And the more you have, or the more colorful, then you will create a far stronger alliance. That's why we have said, okay, let's get this green strategic partnership, because it means jobs, it means energy security, and it will enrich the Indian society. During this Corona or COVID crisis, I've seen so many testimonials from Indians saying, oh, now for the first time ever in our life, we can see the mountains, or we can breathe clean air in Delhi or in Chennai, wherever we are. And this kind of experience will never go away. So there will be also in that context some positive consequences of the Corona or COVID crisis. So now it's about turning that into an opportunity. It's not just about politics, it's also about new jobs, new industries. And India, with Make in India mechanism, can make India strong, great, and green.
So, Ambassador, again, we talked about investment in India, as you see you from the foreign perspective, and bringing your skills and an investment to India. Of course, the ease of doing business in India is not as easy as it sounds. But I see some of the reforms we've taken quickly during the COVID in terms of labor laws, flexibility. Do you think these are the right directions, and these will sort of help you, some of your concern investing in India from a Danish investor perspective? If you could highlight some of those challenges from a foreign investor to India at the moment in the post-COVID scenario.
I hear a lot. I'm part of many webinars, which is a kind of favorite tool for everybody who wants to be seen, heard, or interacting with people. And what I have got from many places across India, from UP to Telangana and other places, is a strong determination on the Indian side, really, to take advantage of the minute, meaning that we have now we have really understood that we have to change. We cannot just be down there on the ease of doing business. It's fantastic what has happened in the last couple of years, or since Modi came into power and so forth. But you have to move on. And if you want to bring in foreign direct investments, you need predictability, stability, when it comes to tax, or when it comes to licenses and so forth. So I was very keen, the other day I interacted with the government of Telecom. They have a system apparently in place where you will get all the licenses within 15 days. And if the licenses are not granted, then they will be applied anyhow. And then the bureaucrat who has not done his or her job properly will be fined personally. That's a tough system. So I hear more of these things, and it goes without saying that India can really grab the minute of the hour, but in such a way that you deliver on all these things. Do away with the bureaucracy, do away with the corruption, do away with all this very complicated system of licenses and all that. And I hear that's work they are doing. And you have these 11 empower groups under the Prime Minister, and they're working hard. So if India comes up with a speedy, substantial answer or system that will allow for the inflow of foreign direct investments, then it will be fantastic. The only thing that India does not have too much of is time. So it's not about discussing for years. I think we're talking about 2 or 3 months, so you have to speed up. So for India post-corona, the roadmap calls for a very intensive discussion and decisions as to doing ease of doing business. You can do it, we know you can do it, but you have to do it. So actions are called for.
Right. So, Ambassador, of course, there was a gap, between India and Denmark, which is finally now being filled with a lot of positivity and a lot of talk between the leaders. I also understand yesterday your foreign minister spoke with our foreign minister, and there will be further leadership talk on that. What are the agenda they're talking on? How serious they will take this green concept to next level? Some of the positivity we can take out of this conversation during the COVID, Ambassador.
But the fact that we yesterday had the third meeting in our so-called joint commission, showcasing that we have really moved forward, and now we are really on the track into a future that is enriching, mutually enriching, and building upon the concept of skills and scale on the Indian side, and skills and smartness on the Danish side. And the good thing on the Danish side is that we are also smart and green, and that's something that is needed. So I think the discussion yesterday, which was a full-fledged foreign policy interaction, however virtually, is a milestone in our relationship. And we are talking about a strategic partnership between India and Denmark. That's the dream that really came into reality, and that bodes really well for the future interactions between our political leaders. But it's also bringing certainty, predictability to our private sector, our private companies. We have 160 companies operating in India. So India is a destination for Danish investments. And my hope is that now we can move even faster. We deserve it, you deserve it, but the outcome has to be green, sustainable, and permanent. So it's about jobs, it's about contribution to growth, sustainable growth, and innovation. So I think we can learn a lot from each other, and we are doing that. And if India is really keen on opening up and do away with all the bureaucracy, then I'm sure you will see our investments from Danish companies, the export-import, if that's of any interest, will also increase. So the interaction at all levels will be beneficial to India, to Denmark, but more importantly, also to the world. So I'm pretty optimistic.
So it's good to have a friend like Denmark, a great friend who has policies which world follows in terms of human rights, in terms of healthcare system, gender equality, education, and so on. And I hope the greater relation will culminate into a more greener strategic partnership, which post COVID-19 has brought the perspective into the world. This is how to survive, and this is how we'll go forward. Thank you, Ambassador Freddy Svane, Denmark, Royal Danish Embassy in India. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Manish Kumar Jha.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Ah, namaste.